kcaaexpress.com. That's kcaaexpress.com. kcaaexpress.com.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also, stream on the KCAA Radio.com website. It's Sunday night. We got to bless the show. You know how we go. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. That is the prayer. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming the KCAARadio.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind. If you got to get out of your car, type in KCAARadio.com, click listen live or watch live, or as you just heard probably on the commercial, get the app. Yes, KCAA Radio has an app. So now we're all over the world, literally, not just on the internet. All right, so tonight we have a very special show for you. It is Lupus Awareness Month, and it is also Mental Health Awareness Month. But also today, it is Mother's Day. So shouts out to all the mothers. Shouts out to my mom, who's almost 2,200 miles away. As I said earlier on my other talks, Mom, I love you. But also I want to be mindful of those who are grieving from the loss of their moms. But also some mothers and children don't have real tight relationships. So yes, it's Mother's Day, but you got to be mindful because there's so many different dynamics of the world. And some people are still dealing with things like that. You know, some children aren't connected to their mom as they wish they were. Whatever that is, I can tell you that if I can reconcile with my mom and dad and ask for forgiveness from me to them, it is possible to restore that relationship. But you got to be willing. You got to be willing. You got to be willing. And so, again, thanks for listening in. Shouts out to the Sports Collective TV, media, and radio crew. The Heme Factor and In the Zone, Robert Lamar and Coach Will. They are out doing their things. They will be back soon. What else? Got to play that public service announcement. But before we do, I have a guest. If you're watching live or you're going to be listening live, Amanda's here to share her story. So I got her in the station. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for hanging out tonight.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you for coming out to share, your background, your story. Really help us paint this picture for the community, the listeners out here in the Inland Empire about these two causes that I mentioned. Also, I have on the line my partner from many moons ago. Alan is here. What's up, man?
Yes, I am.
What's up, yo?
What's going on? WDC Radio.
That was back in the day, baby. They told me, you need to brand yourself. You shouldn't use WD. I'm like, you know what? I don't even like use my own name. Sounds so selfish.
I love WDC.
I know, right? I might have to bring that back because
listen. WDC saved my life. How about that?
Yeah, I might have to change that brand name because I don't like using it. When I use my name, it feels selfish. Just like I have people who on the show with me and I'm using my name. Like I'm not a selfish person, but for the world that likes to brand themselves, I guess that's the part that I get to do. Huh?
Yeah. That's definitely a part of the game.
It's part of the game, right? See, that's the part. I don't like that part of the game.
Well, listen, I'm known as Alan Emanuel LPC, those who know me in that circle. I'm also known as Alan Emanuel, the happiness coach. How about that?
Icon and everything. Don't forget the icon.
Right. Alan Emanuel, icon. Alan Emanuel, therapist. Listen, the truth is that there's a need for separating people. A lot of people, we live very segmented lives. But the truth is that we are whole people. Yes. I'm a therapist when I walk into some circles, and then in some other circles, I used to be known as a singer. That's just a part of what it is, right? Yeah. I'm an artist on the other side. Hey, these are all facets and realities that I live with. I help people bring happiness to their lives. That's the happiness coach. It does it full time,
But you know what though, Alan? Maybe Amanda, you might be able to relate to this. Could the identity crisis that we deal with be a part of that mental health aspect?
Absolutely.
I would say,
Yeah.
right?
1000%.
You have all these titles. Like I don't want to be it. Like I'm an author. I'm a retired Army veteran. Like I'm a advocate. I'm trying to peel off all those labels.
That's
Just to be
exactly-
Farron, man. Like
Yeah.
Just
Well,
like-
I'm half Asian. I'm Asian and white. So that right there is really hard because I got bullied for being Asian and then I got bullied for not being Asian. So I just could not find in between. And then also being in the Asian culture, not being a doctor or a lawyer is also
Right.
very unorthodox. So
you see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's like all these labels that we have amongst us as human beings, man. It gets in the way.
They do, and they oftentimes I think they carry a certain level of stigma, just like the young lady there. Is it Amanda? Did I get that right?
yes.
Amanda,
Thank you.
yeah, Amanda. So it's just it's the reality of us carrying labels, and oftentimes looking into our lives and measuring up to certain things. All
Yeah.
these things do carry a level of stress for us, and oftentimes we carry the stress around, and we don't ever acknowledge that it's even there.
That's the part, though.
Yeah.
That's the part.
Yeah, it's a
Amanda,
real thing.
I would have never known that you would have been bullied because of your
Yeah.
mixed race.
Yeah, because I've always been like a really nice, sweet girl, and I always like to just kind of do my own thing, I did follow the rules, but I'd be like, well, why are they there?
Yeah.
And like growing up religious and very conservative, and most of the kids I grew up with were like white, Asian,
Yeah.
So like I wasn't really exposed, and then when I went to public school, I was like,
Oh,
and then
that was
that's
a
when
shock.
the bullying really started, and I was
Yes.
like, oh dang.
That peer age.
Yeah.
That peer age is dangerous, let me tell you. All right, Alan, we're going to play this public service announcement. This is Call Me Go. It is dedicated for veterans because I'm a veteran myself. And like other veterans, we don't want to deal with medications with our depression and with things that we deal with life.
Right.
And so this product here is Call Me Go. It's a breathing device. Check out the PSA. But if you know a veteran, especially out here in the Inland Empire or those online listening, please share it with them. But it's a human being condition, right?
That's
Panic
right.
attacks, stress, anxiety, that's a human being flaw that we have. So you might, those of you listening who aren't veterans, you're more than welcome to take a look at the website as well. But this right here is
And also,
dedicated to
Farron, let
veterans.
me just throw this in there, like we talked about the last time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just if you're in Georgia, there's the Georgia Crisis Act line. Of course, that's 1-800-715-4225, and you can text 741. If you're in Georgia, if you're across the world, there are different resources that are available. Just
Yeah.
because a lot of times people don't know who do I reach out to.
Right.
If I'm in crisis, if I need help, and just as a mental health professional, I know how real that can be for people, and so it's good to have resources to actually reach out when you feel you're in need of them. And I think that one of those things is just offering people options. And
For
so,
sure. Thank you, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right, so this is Call Me Go. Shout out, what's the count? The Farron Dozier Show.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, also stream on the KCAARadio.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind. For more information about what I'm up to in the community, the Sickle Cell Trade Awareness is WDCONSCT.org. all the other conversations about speaking at church, the inspirational reads, the basketball teams, what else? Everything is on there at the farrond.com. Actually, today I did speak at church. Second Sundays I speak at the New Earth Christian Church, the Zoom Church. And today the message was around answers. And what I learned from myself is I idolize answers because I grew up, my dad taught me that there's no such thing as I don't know, right? So you grew up and you're always looking for answers, but there are some things in life there are no answers, right? And so being able to finally break free from that in my late 40s, I just noticed that, as human beings, there's things in life that we idolize. I idolize hope because it was mixed with hopelessness. I idolize being responsible, trying to control the outcomes of my life. And then these answers. And so if I say I follow Christ, 100% I believe in God, 100%, then why am I trying to control my outcomes? What am I going to look for my answers for my life in the world or in what God has to say? And so I just share that with the youth and the parents and the moms because we forget sometimes, that like Moses' mom, Jochebed, when he was born, like she saw something in him. Mm-hmm. She held on to him as long as she could, and then they let him go, but then he was brought back to her. And Moses, we know the passage about Moses, right? So sometimes as parents, we don't really know why our children are born, why God trusting us with their life, but we're all born for a reason. As I said in my prayer, we're in our mother's womb. God has already given us everything that we need in life. So sometimes people are stressed out trying to find the answers to life and all that. And sometimes it's just no answers. Or go to what you believe. If you say you believe in that, go to that. But there's got to be principles outside of your mind that you gauge life up against. What do you think about
that? Can I go ahead, Amanda?
I was just going to say that for me with my journey with God, like it wasn't until last year that I really started to put literally 110% of my trust into God and just let him completely take over everything and just be like, you know what, I'm going to stay on the path you want, God. And whatever is meant for me or whatever purpose you have for me, I know you're going to make it work out. Yeah. And like, it may not happen in the timeline I want, but that's part of believing in God and the Holy Spirit and believing in a bigger purpose for yourself. Yeah. And, honestly, ever since I've committed myself to really put all that trust into God, I just feel a huge weight lifted off of me. And I just feel like I'm really taken care of and like God really has my back and like nothing can get in the way of his purpose for me. So I just feel really at peace with that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, that's interesting because Amanda and you both went to very interesting conversations to exactly what I was thinking. From that whole depression and experience of depression, because I know we were talking about depression today, I hear these two words that come up, and it's interesting that they come up, and it's the word purpose, which Amanda brought up with, this feeling that when you have purpose, you feel like you're moving forward with your life.
Yeah.
And then you mentioning how you feel like, when you're dealing with the level of really the way that depression works, and you were saying you idolizing this hopefulness.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, depression oftentimes shows up with those two words. It shows up inside of your purpose and hopelessness.
Yeah.
Hopelessness. So this idea that like the situation I'm in is hopeless.
Yeah.
There's another part that comes up a lot in depression, and it's hopelessness, lack of purpose. Right? These are very basic, issues around what you'll see when someone is feeling depression. Mm-hmm. Hopelessness, lack of hopelessness. In other words, lack of hopefulness. Right? So hopelessness, lack of purpose, and then they'll feel as if the situation is never going to change. Right? So that's the amount of time. So anytime someone gets into that space where it's hopeless, it's never going to change. It's, there's no purpose, or I don't see the purpose or meaning, usually that leads into some very heavy depression for people. And so
Definitely.
just, like when you get to have a conversation around what's possible with depression, those are the issues that I attack first.
Yeah.
Of course, I always tell people, listen, before you get diagnosed with, the quote unquote depression label,
Right.
you should definitely see a doctor, because it could just be something as simple as like a vitamin deficiency. It could be, vitamin B, vitamin D, zinc, magnesium. These are things all affect like the way that you're able to actually show up. So get that
Because
cleared
it's
out.
chemicals, right? It's chemicals being
And these
released.
are chemicals.
Yeah, these are
exactly.
chemicals.
And I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking about that earlier, and I was like, one of the things people don't realize is your food creates chemicals in your blood.
Exactly.
And if you don't realize that, you're going to think something is absolutely wrong with you. The labels that we put on people when we diagnose them should not be for the sake of just putting on a label.
Right.
They really should just be for people to be able to express what's necessary if they need medication.
to get help in those
To
areas.
get
Because to
help,
me, like,
exactly.
it's depression and anxiety. That's the label, but you got to peel
Correct.
that label off to get underneath to figure out what is it exactly going on with you as a person versus putting everybody in that one category. We got a question for Amanda about that cultural difference.
Yeah. Did she struggle cultural dominance, which took away from the gifts of her multicultural background? Does she experience herself as a whole person?
That's tough, huh?
Yeah, I would say yes. So I'm Japanese, Filipino, Hawaiian, French, English. During World War II, my Japanese side was thrown into the Japanese internment camps.
Wow.
If anyone is aware of that, most people don't know about it because they don't talk about it a lot in history. But yeah, my family was in the internment camps just simply because they're Japanese American and they were American citizens. And then my great grandfather, William Ishii, he fought for the 442nd, which is actually the most decorated, I believe, battalion or I forgot what it's called. You know, your army. The unit.
Okay,
They're the
the
most
unit.
decorated unit in the
Okay.
army during World War II,
No
and it was
kidding.
all Japanese Americans.
No kidding.
And they did it. They volunteered to prove their loyalty to the country and prove they're not traitors. Can you imagine your own country throwing you into internment camp? You lose your home, you lose everything, and you just want to be able to fight for your country and prove your loyalty and your patriotic, self.
Yes.
And I think that traumatized my family a lot.
Oh,
They
yeah.
lost so much and they all got separate. I'm still looking for my family. And I think because of what they went through with that experience, they were like, we have to be as American as possible. So we're
Right.
not going to speak Japanese.
Right.
My Filipino side is like, we're not going to speak Filipino because
No.
they wanted to survive here as well.
No.
So both sides of my ancestries were like, we're all coming from Asian backgrounds that
yeah.
aren't really, accepted here in America during that time. So
Yeah.
both sides were struggling to fit in and survive. And it's kind of sad because while they did that, they kind of like lost their ethnicity or their heritage and their culture.
For sure.
So growing up, I hate to say this, but I was told by family, white is right. If you marry a white man, you're going to be successful, which I don't agree with. I'm going to marry whoever I want, whoever I love. And I'm the only one in the family that speaks Japanese, that can speak Filipino or Tagalog.
Yeah.
I lived in the Philippines. I've been all over the
So you kept
Asia.
that.
Yeah, and so I like to keep it going. And now I'm teaching my nieces, that you can still be American, but still embrace your Asian culture, and that's nothing to be ashamed of. It's who you are.
America, tell the truth. Like, this is real history right here. America,
Right.
tell the truth. This is our real history right here in the people's, not the textbook only, in the people's lives right here. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of
And thanks
And
for
I
that
think what's
question.
also, just to
Go
add, what I
ahead.
think is amazing is like also you being black. Like, look at what your ancestors went through for you
Exactly.
to be here right now and be
Exactly.
successful and free. And like, same with me, like everyone has that. And I think that really snaps me out of like feeling down on myself because I'll be like, it took so much to create me and for me to be
Exactly.
here, and there's a reason why I'm here. So
And now
I
it's
just
our
think
turn.
it's crazy.
And now it's
Yeah.
our turn.
So make the most of your life.
Thank
You owe
you.
it to your ancestors.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. All right.
Mm.
We're gonna get into a little bit of Amanda's story, Alan. I want to cover. She already just touched on her ancestors, but Amanda, who was Amanda growing up as a young child?
Um, me growing up, I was kind of a derpy kid.
Yeah.
I was just very in my own world. Like we would go fishing all the time, and my brother, and who, by the way, he had a mullet growing up.
Wow. All right, bro.
So picture an Asian kid with a bowl cut and a little
And a
like
mullet and a
like
shag, like
yeah,
a shag.
and I had a bowl cut.
And you had a bowl cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was obsessed with like imagination, so we would go fishing every year up in Mammoth. And so my brother and my parents would be fishing. They're all serious and like all into it. And I'd get bored of it. So then I'd go like to the river and like I'd be playing with my Barbie dolls next to the river and just totally out of it and like meeting deers and like
Wow.
throwing stuff at them. So I was just one of those kids. I was just kind of like in La La Land,
Yeah.
and being in an Asian family that's
Yeah.
kind of looked down upon because they're like, what is up with her? What is she doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You touched on the bullying aspect of it. So did you go to private school before? So what was the private school like?
So I went to a private school growing up, and it was part of the church we went to, and it was so tiny. There was probably like 20 kids in my class, you know, and I don't know, it was just a lot of bullying, like cliques, you know, in church and private school, but it got worse in public school because it's bigger, you know, and there's more people. And when I got to public school, I never really thought about my race or anything. I was just like, I am who I am. I don't know. And people were just like, it was weird. Like as soon as I got to middle school, it was like I saw like gang members. I saw so many things. And then I saw kids from like Cambodia, and I was like, what's Cambodia? And I was like, what is that? So I got really exposed, and people were right away like ready to like see where I like subscribe, which label. And it was weird to me because I was like, why do I have to? And people are like, well, why do you play basketball if you also surf? And I was like, why not? You know, like why does it have to be one or the other? And they made it seem like, well, you can't do both. And it was just weird. So I got bullied a lot because I was weird to them.
That's one of the main conversations that I'm up to today, is understanding that transition, especially from elementary to middle school, the identity. We're talking about the identity crisis, the turning to our peers for acceptance and sense of belonging. Like all that gets thwarted at some point. I don't think any of us escapes it. I think we all have to tell the truth. I know for me it was. I was a very emotional child, and as you're sharing, you know, the bullying and that you say in the middle school, it was like a whole nother world opened up. Alan, what do you want to speak to that part of that transition? And again, you can deal with anxiety, you can deal with depression, like that sense of belonging.
I think for me it's this whole idea that, first of all, I want to point out that bullying is a very, very serious issue.
Yes.
And it does cause anxiety, but oftentimes we see it with depression, where young kids in school, especially in middle school, will feel as if, you know, in high school, those developmental years where it matters what your peers think, you're comparing yourself to other people.
Right.
And that whole experience can lead people down a spiral, and honestly, oftentimes even lead to people having thoughts of suicide and hurting themselves. And these are part of, you know, the things that really a lot of people struggle with when it comes to depression. Depression can lead you down that spiral, and so I feel like just having self-awareness really brings people to a space where they can know, what are my triggers with depression? What are the things that I should watch out for? Of course, when you're a child, you may not know much. And of course, if there's a kid right now who's going through that, or even an adult, There's the National Suicide Hotline, which I like to give resources.
Yeah.
They can call 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. That's the National Suicide Hotline, where
Yeah.
if you're thinking about suicide, listen, you're not alone.
For real.
There are thousands and thousands of people around the world who struggle with suicide.
Yeah.
And when you look at the circumstances which we are expected to live under here in this world, and particularly in our country as well, it's no wonder that so many people are struggling with their lives.
Yeah.
I don't want to leave out the part of how some of this can be a genetic reality for people, where, like we were talking about, those chemicals in the body. Oftentimes, you can do everything right, but if your body is
Right.
not, is not in balance, then
Right.
you can experience issues of depression. So, some of the things that I like to remind people is that there are ways to kind of work on, just having good practices with your hygiene, making sure that you're looking at the way that you're approaching life. I like to tell people, learn some skills that help you move out of your depression.
Right.
One of the things is really just becoming aware, and then being able to name the thing that triggers you into that depression,
Yeah.
and then knowing how to respond to your emotions appropriately. Obviously, if you need help, you seek a professional.
Yeah. You gotta get help.
Yeah,
Seek
you gotta
help.
get help, but it's important to have awareness, because when I hear somebody talk about issues around growing up and bullying, it reminds me of myself, how as a young kid I had my my experiences with being bullied, and
Yeah.
these things can oftentimes lead into adult issues if not dealt with.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think of, and just not to go too long on this, but also parents who don't know the signs.
Right.
And so see
Yeah.
certain things in their child, and
Yes.
they may see
That
the
part.
behavior, they think, oh, this child is just being, poor behavior at school, when in fact
Right.
their way of crying
Gotta
out.
educate the
is-
parents.
Yeah, so
Gotta
there's a
educate the
lot
parents.
of needs for people to recognize. And instead of jumping on your child when something goes wrong at school, I encourage my parents to really just ask questions before they do that.
Yeah.
What's going on? What happened? Can you tell me
Yeah.
more about that? Oh, you mean Billy did that to you over on the playground?
Right.
What happened next? What did they do next?
Let
Get
me.
curious about your child to really understand what's going on, because oftentimes we carry these wounds into adulthood because no one stopped for long enough to be curious, because they were concerned with other things
Yeah.
in parenting, which probably did have priority, like paying the
Yeah.
bills. But at the end of the day, you need to make sure you're taking care of your child.
Let me ask Amanda. You said you surfed and played basketball.
Yeah. I still surf here and there.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm playing. When I go back to the Philippines, I'm going to surf for sure. It's called Siargao.
Yeah.
They actually have like world competitions there. It's pretty dope.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the basketball. When did that love for basketball start?
Man, I can't remember. Probably when I was 5.
Yeah.
I just remember dribbling a lot and playing with my grandpa, the Japanese one,
Yeah.
and my brother, who really sucked at it.
Yeah.
And my dad wasn't really good at it either. He was a football player.
Okay.
And then my mom, she's not athletic at all. She was a cheerleader and a nurse.
Yeah.
So I was like kind of like the only athlete. But my brother, he was on the surf team.
Okay.
He's a really good surfer. But me, I always stuck to basketball. I played every sport out there, but I was like, I really love basketball. Like, I love it so much.
Did you have a chasing hoop dream as a young?
Yeah,
teenager?
I wanted. So I wanted to be the first Asian woman in the NBA.
Ah.
Like the movie Love and Basketball.
Yeah.
But quickly I realized like that's not even possible.
But the WNBA came on the scene.
Yeah, but I'm only 5'4", and honestly, I'm not at that level anymore. And plus, with my condition, there's no way they would let someone like me play.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I'm still involved though, like in other ways, which I love. Like as
Yeah.
long as I'm around it. But I do get kind of sad that I can't play at that level and I can't do anything about it. It's just the way my body is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely relate to you on that one, because I used to play ball outside of high school. When I joined the military, was like 3 times a week, 4 or 5 hours at a time.
Really?
Oh,
I played
yeah, like-
5 times a day.
Play 5 times a day.
I woke up at 4 in the morning. I would walk to the park, go play and practice, shoot around. I was like a little Kobe. And then I would walk to school, do practice there with my team, play at lunch, and then after school, play again with my team. And then I would walk to the park and practice more and
Practice
play
some
with the
more.
dudes there until my parents were like, come on. And like I would study and stuff. So I was like obsessed. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to come back to that. We're going to play the public service announcement. This is Call Me Go right here on the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Shout us out. What's the count?
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes. In moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM and 1050 AM. We got Amanda is in the building on deck. We got Alan
What's up?
on the line. The A's are in the house tonight. Amanda and Alan on the line.
That's nice.
We're covering, her background. We've touched on some mental health topics. Alan is here to support us in this mental health conversation. So we'll be dipping and diving between he and us on the phone line. But it's really about Amanda tonight as well. So the basketball, love for basketball, surfing, derpy, whatever that means. We have to look that up for definition. Let's talk about your condition. Which condition do you want to address first? This is Lupus Awareness Month, so
Right.
let's touch on that.
Yeah.
What was going on in life before the lupus diagnosis?
Okay, so
How about
I have
that?
a crazy story how this all happened because usually people that are diagnosed with like lupus or Crohn's, it's like genetic or I don't know. like-
Stress, environment, these
Yeah.
different things. Yeah, that
but
can
mine
trigger it.
started from a car accident.
A car accident.
Yeah, it's extremely
Trauma to the
rare.
body.
Yeah, PTSD. But I don't think it's just solely based on the car accident. A
Yeah.
lot of traumatic events happened to me.
Yeah.
Sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse. So I believe because it all happened around each other,
Yeah.
just back to back, I think that's what kind of just made my body just go crazy. Because
Yeah.
autoimmune means it's too active.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it
White
attacks your own
cells.
immune system.
Yeah.
And so I was hit by a car, of course, walking home from playing basketball at the park with my cousin Nika, and a car was traveling too fast. There was no stoplight. It was just a crosswalk, but all the
Yeah.
other cars stopped except
Yeah.
one.
Oh.
That car hit us. I landed head first in the windshield. Somehow I survived. Like, everything was okay.
Yeah.
It was weird. I had no broken bones. It was just a lot of swelling and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I took like months to recover. And then I returned back to school and I was like, I'm just not the same. I can't focus.
Yeah.
I'm going to the bathroom like 20 times a day and it's embarrassing. And I didn't know how to talk about it. And my mom's a nurse and I wanted to tell her, but I was so embarrassed and like I wasn't sure if it was normal or not.
Yeah.
And then at first they thought I had Raynaud's syndrome, which is where you get bad circulation in your toes and your fingers because I would get cold all the time. So they diagnosed me with that. And my mom was like, something's bigger going on. Like
Yeah.
my daughter has no energy. Like I couldn't keep up with my honor classes. I couldn't really keep up with basketball. I just would get home and just pass out because I was
Yeah.
so anemic, but I had no idea.
Yeah.
And then they finally admitted me because they did tests on me and they called my mom at work and was like, your daughter's really sick. She needs to go to that hospital like ASAP. So then next thing I know, they're like, oh, she has Crohn's, ulcerative colitis. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
And So then I started my journey with that, and I think I was in like, I think a sophomore in high
Oh
school.
no.
So all of this during high school, it was the worst timing.
Yeah.
And then they started me on different treatments. I was on Remicade at Cedars-Sinai, and during that time I developed symptoms of lupus.
Yeah.
And they thought at first it was from Remicade, the treatment for my ulcerative colitis, but it turns out I actually had lupus. So I was officially diagnosed in 2012. It took a
2012,
while to
okay.
get finally
Yeah,
diagnosed.
for sure.
And what's funny is now that it's 2024, my rheumatologist right now, I don't know if it's true, but he said he doesn't see signs of lupus. So I'm kind of like, it's a good thing, but at the same time, I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah.
How does it just disappear? So I'm going to get a second opinion. But my hair falls out, I get rashes, lots of mouth sores, joint swelling, fatigue.
Yeah.
It's just a really painful disease. Yeah.
As a sophomore, all this has happened. Like you said, that's a very, very vulnerable age. You're dealing with your health. How did you deal with that?
It was hard.
Yeah.
And people would make fun of me, like, oh, that's so embarrassing or that's gross, you know,
Yeah.
because I had stomach problems. I was scared to eat, you know. It was just really hard because back then, like now, a lot of people are more aware of it,
Mhm.
you know, because you see a lot of celebrities talking about it.
Yeah.
Chadwick Boseman died of colon cancer.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's more education and more awareness now. But back then, it was like I was so ashamed of it, and I
Yeah.
didn't talk about it, and it was hard to deal with. And I feel like till this day, I still experience some isolation.
Oh yeah, for sure. I would
Especially because
imagine.
now I have a bag,
Yeah.
you know, and I've been bullied for that too,
Yeah.
you know, even being an adult. So it's been a really long, tough journey, and I've been sick for about 19 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a long time.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Like I said, the our peers, yo, we are so rough on each other at these
Yeah.
stages, right? And we don't really understand the emotional piece that plays out in that, right? And you don't want to say people are ignorant, but it is a lack of knowledge, right?
Mhm.
Ignorant is not a bad word. You know, it is a lack of knowledge. Looking back now as an adult woman to that peer age, what would you say to that? I mean, there's an age now that's dealing with, but
Mhm.
what would you say to your peer age about just
Like
what
to
you were
myself
dealing
or
with?
the peer? Oh, like from when I was that age
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that unfortunately it's gonna get worse
Yeah.
because that's the reality of my situation.
Yeah.
So find better support systems, find resources, and like find people like you that get it, and like
Yeah.
find the friends that generally want to be there. Because throughout this whole 19 years of me being sick, it's really crazy how many friends I really thought would be there for me and
Yeah.
like really ride or die the way I was for them. Like I even walked out of the ERs pulling IVs out of me just to be there for friends. Like
Wow.
that's how good of a friend I have always been. So it just sucks when like they completely forget about
You
you 'cause
expect
you're
that in
sick.
return.
Yeah, I had a ex-best friend even tell me, "You're not funny anymore because you're always in the hospital." And I was
Yeah.
like, "You act like I have control over that. Like that's the dumbest thing." And I don't know. For
Yeah.
me personally, if I knew my friend was going through something like health-wise that they can't control and it really affects their lives, I would find a way to be a good friend. Like, what do you need from me? How can I be a good friend? How can I support you? Like, how can I learn more about what you're dealing with? What is a typical day like in your shoes?
sure.
You know, but no one asked me
They'd
that.
ask, yeah.
Like ever. The only people that ask me that is when I'm traveling outside the country.
Yeah.
But I feel like we live in a really selfish society that's very superficial. And if you're going through something, it's kind of like you're on your own, like, you know. So I've kind of like learned to just be really tough and, you know, figure it out and just learn how to like really build a good relationship with myself. And it's really helped me get through the worst times in the hospital.
You deal with the lupus. When people ask you about lupus, how do you describe it to them?
It's kind of weird because a lot of people don't even know what autoimmune is.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so autoimmune means that your immune system attacks cell.
Those are your white cells.
Yeah. So it's kind of like hard, but like it's funny because of that.
Yeah.
I usually ask, do you have any kind of like healthcare background?
Ah,
Because then they can understand more. But
Yeah.
if they actually don't, like say it's someone in IT or whatever,
yeah.
like they have no idea what that is, then I'm like, okay, so basically my body's attacking itself,
Yeah.
and like these are my symptoms, and there's no cure for it, and then they're like, oh, wow, okay, but you don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah.
I can't get mad at people for not
Yeah, exactly.
understanding. It's kind of weird.
You've been able to stay connected to basketball. I kind of relate to you in this basketball journey because my identity was in basketball for, I don't know, since 7th grade, maybe 7th, 8th grade. And then having my sickle cell trait exertion, retiring from the military medically, can't play basketball like I used to, but still wanted to be in that environment,
Yeah.
like, just be on the court, just the squeaky floor and the sweaty walls, like just to be in that environment is enough sometimes. But then you want to play.
Yeah.
Like, how do you manage that part?
I'd be lying if I said I mastered it because I haven't. Like, there'll be times where, like, even if my service dog is with me, like,
Yeah.
even he wants to play. Like, he chased one of my players down the court when he had the ball because he wanted to play. And I was like, I feel you. Like, I'm the same. Like, I just want to play, And then when I do, it is kind of disappointing because from my experience, a lot of the leagues I played in, they're not very understanding of my condition or my background.
Yeah.
They just assume like, oh, she's slower than us and she can't keep up.
Right.
And then like they won't pass to me or like they exclude me.
Yeah.
And then when they find out, I work in sports management, then all of a sudden they want to like be close to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like honestly, you can tell I know what I'm doing. You can tell I can play. You can tell I used to be really good. I'm just at a different pace, a different level. I'm not that level like I want to. I just can't. My body will just give up.
So let's talk about the sports management. What I can imagine what the drive was, but what had you go into that part of the basketball world?
Well, I think it started because at first I just really enjoyed being around basketball, obviously. And I guess with my personality, I'm really good at like networking, meeting people, and like with you, like I always make connections with people. Like you could throw me in any room and I could find something I have in common with someone.
For sure.
Like I'm sure I have something in common with him,
Nah,
like,
you don't want nothing in common with Joe. Nothing in common with Joe. Leave Joe alone in there. See? Leave him alone.
Like I could literally, like I make friends everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, even on the freeway, like I'm waving at people. Like I'm just a really happy person. I'm really down to earth and easy to get along with. So I just made a ton of really good connections. And some of the connections I made, I had no idea how big it was.
Yeah.
Like, I ran into Gilbert Arenas and he gave me his number, and then like Meta World Peace, he's big on mental health.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
yeah, just so many awesome people that I used to watch play, and it's just crazy how like it's been so easy for me. Like this past summer I did a commercial with Klay Thompson, and that was just purely based on connections. And it's just crazy how there's a lot you can do in your passion by just being a respectful person and just being nice. And you don't have to be a cutthroat, mean person to make it to the top. You can do it by keeping your morals, integrity, and being nice. So that kind of gave me the idea, like, I should get paid for this. Like, I know so many people, I'm helping people go overseas and getting them contracts. Like, maybe I should get paid for this.
Right.
So Horace, shout out to Horace. He worked at the district in LA. Shout out to the district.
The district.
Yeah, where Frank is at. Yeah, I love them. I always work with them. Frank's a great person, and Horace used to work there. So I booked a commercial for them with Jaden Ivey for his NBA draft commercial.
Wow.
I think that was like 2 years ago, and I did it through a connection I made that was a producer who was like, hey, I heard you know everybody, so I'm going to put you to the test. Book something in 2 days for this much money, this many hours. And I was like, okay, I got it. And then I just hit up Horace in the district,
Done
And
deal.
the rest is history. And like now I get booked all the time.
No
and
kidding.
yeah, and I work with some great people. I've coached professionally. I coached in Belize,
Yeah.
so it's been really good for me. But I don't want to grow too fast. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
There's still a lot I want to do, so I don't want to like get ahead of myself.
Before we pass it to Alan, you know, being a kingdom citizen, believing in God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, we're born with these afflictions, right? Sometimes these afflictions are, we're born with them, inherited genes. Sometimes they turn into accidents, like you say, that sometimes watching too much TV can cause afflictions because you're worried about what the world's happening in the world. Like, do you advocate for the causes around your health? Do you like go out and share and talk to other people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something that I really, really need to do better on.
Yeah.
Because I know I have such a good story, and I just need to find spaces where it's accepted and people want me to share it. Unfortunately, I've come across certain spaces or people where they just want to use that, to get my connections or look good or whatever. They're doing good, but really they don't care,
For sure, yeah.
So that's the sad thing about the basketball community is you see some superficiality and it's not as genuine as you think it is sometimes. So it's important to improvise. I've always said that's a constant theme with my illness and my career is you have to improvise. Like, obviously I can't play in the WNBA because I have a bag and my illness and all that, but that doesn't mean I can't be around basketball. I can still improvise, right? And I think being a creative person and being flexible will take you far in life. Yeah. And it helps you not quit. Because I told myself in the hospital, like, I can't give up on what I love. I'm still going to go out there and help others. And even if I'm in a wheelchair, I'll still do it, And I've told people, like, if I have to be in a wheelchair to play basketball, I'll still do it.
They got wheelchair basketball.
Yeah, why not? I know it looks really hard, but yeah, I advocate a lot, and I need to share my story more. I need to be better at that.
I agree with you a lot. Even people without a illness, we don't realize that there are so many jobs out there that you could be connected to the sport, not the one on the court all the time. You can make just as much money in the background being connected to a sports team.
Right.
Like, people don't think about that.
People want to romanticize, the LeBrons and like Kyrie Irvings and all that, and MJ and Kobe, but no one wants to talk about the people in the background helping them. You have trainers, you have front office, you have admin, you have agents. Like, there's so
many jobs.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for sharing that because I believe the basketball, and I own two ABA teams right now, and I'm like, that's my connection back to basketball.
If you need the first female player, no, I'm just kidding.
There you go. But that's my mental health connection back to that, because I can't, I go to 24-hour fitness and do what I can do, and if I feel good that day, I'll probably try to play a full court game, but I can still shoot. But that whole aspect of it is staying connected with the ABA teams. To me, that's that gives me my mental health. We're gonna play this public service announcement, and then we're gonna come back to Alan and kind of tap into some more mental health talk, because it is also Mental Health Awareness Month as well. And thank you for sharing your story with us, Amanda. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Shout us out. What's the count?
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes. In moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Comigo.com to learn how you can get Comigo through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also, stream from the KCAA Radio.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind. Sickle Cell Trade Awareness, WDCONSCT.org. Everything else I'm up to at FarronD.com. Give out your social. Why do you want people to find you?
You can find me on Instagram. It's at Amanda Ishii, ISHII _22. 22 is my basketball number.
Are you still doing the basketball player? Look for players to get overseas?
Always looking for players to go overseas for contracts or connections I have. Find me on social. It's Amanda Ishii _22. I need to get better at responding to people.
Yeah, we didn't talk for like about a year. You
Really?
sent me because remember you sent me those players. I interviewed the guys from the gym, and then you just like.
I think it was because I was just going through a lot with my illness because it flares up, you know, and then like moving, and I'm always like moving and just like so much transitions, and it's hard for me to like. But that's another thing about my anxiety is like I learned that from my therapist.
Yeah.
Part of anxiety causes you to isolate and just like
for sure.
shut off the world.
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
I need a better balance.
For sure.
Yeah.
Alan, can you touch on this last few minutes between let's talk about spend like about 30-40 seconds on anxiety and depression and the difference. If you could wrap that up for us.
Yeah, no problem. I really, I thought it was interesting because I was listening to what you guys were talking about, and I thought it was really interesting to hear how you both connected on the basketball front.
Yeah.
And to me, that is an interesting conversation when you're talking about chronic illness and how those things can get in the way. But I just saw a much broader conversation around the theme of how do you deal when you have to grieve a thing, because last week we talked a little bit about how grieving doesn't always have to do with the person. Sometimes it's a thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really enjoyed about the conversation tonight was that oftentimes when we're grieving a thing, one of the things we fail to realize is that there are other ways, what we call reframing, or other ways of seeing that thing, so that it's still a part of our lives.
Yes.
We can feel a level of purpose, like we were talking about depression earlier, a level of purpose, a level of meaning. So that is at the center. Like if you really want to be able to live the best life you can, one of the things you can do is really look at where can I increase purpose in my life?
Right.
Can I connect to things that I love doing, even if I have limitations around those things?
Yeah.
How can I make those things mean something in my life?
Reframing.
The way I see things. And then, of course, you can't get away from the idea that oftentimes these things lead to the way that we're able to actually interact with our family members.
For sure.
It really comes down to your relationship with yourself, your relationship with other people, and your relationship to God. And with my happiness coaching, that's literally one of the things I try to really push hard, which is how do you connect to yourself?
Yeah.
Self-talk is a big thing. A lot of people hear terms around mental health, but they don't realize how impactful it is in their daily lives.
Okay.
It's like, how do you talk to yourself?
Yeah.
How do you relate to you? How do you relate to other people in your circle?
Right.
Do you understand that the things that you say, you may not mean them to hurt someone else, but if that's their trigger, it can literally bring them down into a spiral. So how much empathy do you show to another person that may need that from you? Right? And I heard Amanda talk about how oftentimes in our society, we live in such a selfish society where it's like,
Hey, Alan, man, thank you so much, man, for hanging out. We're going to come back. We got more mental health episodes coming in the future, this next couple of Sundays. Alan's going to be here. Amanda, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Keep going.
say so to your brother.
Hi, brother. I love you.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to the Farron Dozier Show. Shouts out to the Sports Collective team. More information at farrond.com or wdconsct.org. Shouts out what's the count for the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
KCAA.